if you have signed up for a live session from Empower about visas, you have made it to the right spot. We're going to give it about 30 seconds or so for people to join. It takes a little time for Zoom to let everyone in, but great to have you here today. For anyone new to Empower Live sessions, let me give you a little bit of lay of the land. At the bottom of your screen, you should see something that says Q&A. We have staff on hand ready to answer all of your questions. So go ahead, put your questions in there. We often answer those live towards the end, and it helps us make sure you get the content you came here for. I will say it's better to ask us questions early. If you wait the last 10 minutes, we sometimes don't have time to get back to you fast. So as many questions as you want, as early as you want, using that Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Perfect. And I think that's probably given people time to join the link. So welcome. This is a Empower Live session about all your questions about visas and making it to your new destination, North America, for school. My name is Claire Allman. I'm an Associate Director of Marketing here at Empower. And something that's always really impressed me about this company, I started 6 years ago, is that we're a company of former international students here to make life better, easier for future international students. And so here with me today, I have Cindy, who is our Path to Success Manager, as well as Arbaz, who is a current international student. He's also a former and current Empower employee. And last, we have Art, who is our immigration expert, who is an Empower veteran, I would say, of our live sessions. And so give me a moment. Great. So what we're going to do today is we're going to introduce the topic, introduce each other. Then we're going to get into a little bit about Arbaz's experience. We're going to answer all your immigration questions with Art, and then Cindy's going to give you some more context about the rest. So just to get started, I'm going to launch a poll to learn a little bit more about you. And during that time, I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves. So one moment, let me launch that poll. Great. You should have a poll that will let us know a little bit more about you so we can tailor the session to you. And then I'm going to start with Arbaz. Do you mind introducing yourselves for our audience? Yourself. Yourselves. Great.
Sure thing. Thanks, Claire. Hey, everyone. My name is Arbaz Hashmi. I belong to a very small city in India called Lucknow. Well, maybe not so small, but definitely medium-sized. Currently, I'm finishing my MBA at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland. And before this, as Claire mentioned, I worked with Empower. And the last 10 years of my life have been in strategic partnership space, including Empower for about, I think, more than just about 2 years, where I led the partnerships for them. I think because of this experience, I'll have a unique lens at this journey from both sides. And I'm thrilled to share any experiences, tips that would work for the audience today, especially for the visa section. I mean, it's a phase that's almost completely out of control for the students, right? It's not in our hands at all. I remember my time when it was COVID. It didn't look like I would be able to come to US for my education. And sometimes there are no appointments, which was definitely the case. If there were no appointments, there is so much gray and unknown in this process that the preparation is never enough. So feel free to ask any questions that come to your mind about the visa process, or whether that's your in-school experience. I'll be happy to share any tips or any of my anecdotes on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arbaz. And so, Art, do you mind introducing yourself as well?
Sure. My name is Arthur Serratelli, and I'm my law partner, Mara Mial, and I are our immigration lawyers, United States immigration lawyers. I know enough to get you and pointed in the right direction for Canadian resources. There are a few immigration attorneys that I have come across in my career in Canada, plus the Canadian immigration website itself, the government website. My job is to answer your questions about immigration before you get to America. And then once you're here, what immigration options do you have after F1 if you want to stay? The F1 student visa will get you here, you study here, and then when you graduate, what do you do here next? Or maybe you go back home. What are the choices? So I'll help you with that.
Great. Thank you so much, Art. And Cindy, over to you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Art and Arbaz. I'm Cindy Jacobs. I'm the Path to Success Manager and Career Coach here at Empower. Prior to Empower, I have been working and supporting international students in the US like you who are coming to study here in support of their career development, as well as in relations to career development, some of the immigration resources as well. Here at Empower, our support does not stop at loan disbursement. So we are here, as you can see, attending these sort of pre-departure live events, as well as we provide resources for immigration resources, sort of career tips, as well as personal finance and money management as well. So we're looking forward to getting to know you and answer any questions you might have. I do lean on experts like Art and many others for their expertise when supporting students. So here to answer some of the general questions I might know about the US and Canadian immigration process with you. Thank you.
Thank you all. And so if you joined recently, probably about 10 seconds to answer the poll, which is a very essential part of us tailoring this session to you. While people do that, I saw a bunch of people joined a little bit later. So this session towards the end is really built up on your questions. We want to make sure that you're getting the value you want. So I recommend in that Q&A function, bottom of your screen, go ahead and dropping those questions early, so we make sure we get to your question during the session. So I'm now going to end the poll at the end of this sentence now, and then I will also share the results with you. Great. So, wow. So we definitely have around 50% of you have been accepted to study. Congratulations. Definitely the leading segment today. And then the next runner-up, a lot of you are still thinking about studying, great for planning early. Preparation really makes a difference a lot of times in this case. And so next, some of you have applied to study or been conditionally accepted. So in your journey, and then last 10% of you are currently enrolled, making me think that Art's information about what to do after graduation will be pertinent to you. So great to have everyone here. In terms of country you want to study in, we have 67% for USA, 23% for Canada, and 10% are either both. Very cool. In terms of career mix, it looks like we have representation across all disciplines, with most of you looking into business management administration. Great, that's actually what Arbaz is doing right now, so you can certainly speak to that. And then we also have engineering, manufacturing, technology, sort of STEM as an easy runner-up there. And then, oh yes, this question is the most important of all of these. If you could travel in the past or future, which would you pick? Most of you are going into the future. Maybe you're skipping school and going right into your dream job. Arbaz, I bet you could wish you could do that. Maybe, I don't know. I'll let you answer in a second. And then 29%, it's no time like the present. Yeah, I agree. Thank you for being here with you. And then 20% are going back in time. So Arbaz, I just called you out. What's your answer? Which of these would you choose?
I think of what I've learned from all the movies around time travel is you can't do anything if you go back to past or the future. It's better to stay where you are and just mope in sadness. That's it.
All right, so we have Mopey over here in his nice sadness. Cindy, are you also Mopey?
Well, that is a tough answer question, but I would say probably travel in the back. I think I really enjoyed being in college and learning and making connections while I was in school. So I would love to experience college life again. So very excited for all of you to have this opportunity to experience study abroad. So I would say going in the past.
Great. So Art, maybe you'll be a tiebreaker, maybe a new answer. What would you do?
If I have to go to see what this turns into in the future, no thanks. I'm already too far in the future. I want to go back to being an idiot in high school where I could just do whatever I want. I have no responsibility whatsoever. You have keys to a car you don't pay for. I want to go back, so far back. I want to go to high school. That's what I wanted to.
We have far back to high school, far back to college, no time like the present. I feel like I have to say the future, like 51 of our respondees. So diverse group. I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to move on to the content, the meat of this session. And so Arbaz, I'd love to start with you because you have an experience that I think our attendees are really going to want to listen to. And so can you please describe just, a bit of your journey as an international student?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after watching so many experiences when I was at Empower, I thought that it makes sense to take that plunge, take that leap of faith and hope that things would, like, there wouldn't be any recession in the economy. And I went for it. Well, turns out fate had different plans. But even with everything, I'm so thankful that I took this decision of coming to US, first of all, no matter how hard it was. And it was hard at times where I felt like, well, this is not happening. I think I should give up. And that's definitely around this time when I was applying for my visa and there were no appointment slots at all in that time. I think it was 2021 and they were about to launch something. They were about to host a session where they were about to give any information what's going to happen. But I think all international students at that time had the same question, well, what do I do with this admit? Should I defer? Should I not? And that's where I realized that I think despite knowing everything about this process, or at least a lot about this process, I still did not start sooner enough. I still waited for a lot of time and still was in June when all of this was happening. I already had received my admit in March. Why didn't I apply to my process like back then only in April or in March or in May? And I think that's where I slipped up in my journey. At the same time, thankfully it happened, but it's a road of constant learning. It never stops. And I don't think I'm about to graduate in 20 days and it still hasn't stopped for me. I'm still learning a lot of new things, still challenging, still facing a lot of struggles in terms of adapting to the culture, overcoming a lot of language barriers at times, and sometimes even dealing with homesickness on a personal part. And the professional part is definitely keep on going. You realize that, yes, you thought you knew a lot, but when you come to a school where there are other overachievers around you, you can get to see the reality check as well and realize that it's awesome. If I don't know all the answers at times, it's good that I know the process of finding the answers. And I think that's essentially what a grad school did for me.
So you sort of alluded a little bit to my next question, which is fantastic, but what made you want to study abroad, Arbaz?
I think in one word, it would be growth. I definitely was looking for a growth, and I had enough examples, enough data in front of me to see that, okay, this is a proven way of getting to that growth, maybe a little early in your career, instead of going through those 10 years and still trying to figure that out. And that's where I thought, okay, an MBA was always a stepping stone towards the life that I wanted, and it makes sense. Okay, I wanted to. Had some requisites. I wanted to have a Go Global brand on my resume. So that's why I went for a school like GHU. It was a top 10 university, and being in Hopkins alumni definitely comes with a lot of perks and a lot of post-graduation engagement and support, something that came with it. At the same time, the idea was always to learn more. I realized that I don't know enough. I was always relying on the voice in the back of my head to take those decisions. I'm an engineer by qualification. So it's just that doesn't come naturally to me, a lot of those questions. And I thought, well, my gut feels that it's the right thing to do, but I did not know for sure that if this is, and that's where it felt like when I was growing in hierarchy in my career, I realized the stakes are getting bigger. I have to take decisions that could either get a revenue of, let's say, $2 million or get us a loss of pretty much the same amount of money. And that's where I realized that I think I need to know better. And I need to exactly have a proper way of solving these problems and a structure to my thinking process. That's where I thought, well, international education makes sense here. That's the kind of upskilling I was looking for on a global scale.
Right. And so I know you said preparation, but do you have any other advice for our audience? Things that you recommend they definitely do?
Well, start early, as I mentioned. That's definitely the case. And do not think of this process as one step at a time. you should always be at least thinking or have some sort of a plan towards the rest of the steps, even if you are currently just applying to your schools, which I think a lot of you are not. But the idea is that even if you are, you should always be thinking 2 steps ahead. So if you are at your visa step, you should already be thinking about your classes at this point of time and how do I prepare for it? Because by the time you'll be done with your visa, you wouldn't have any other time to think about those things of how do I prepare for my classes? How do I prepare for my departure? That's definitely one of the most important things if like of all this process that I could tell you, that you need to know more about this process to be able to navigate this easily. You need to know what are the people who can help you out there. You need to know exactly where to look for these information. And you need to actually find your ally and your champions in this process to guide you. And you couldn't trust their judgment and their guidance on this. That's very important as an example that I thought of. And at the same time, the visa process, I think most, because the session is about the visa, and I think almost 50% of our audience is going to get into that phase, and Arthur can definitely elaborate more on this, but that's a process that you would not have any insight of as to what's happening on the other side of the mirror or the glass. So it's better to have as much preparation as you can do on that, making sure that you have all your answers prepared, making sure that you know exactly why you're going, and definitely please make sure that you clarify any of the doubts that you have from Arthur or from me or anyone else in the session today. But I think that would be the 2 point of primary advices I would have for the students.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Arbaz. And since you mentioned Art, luckily, he is up next. And so Art, we're going to start with some basic questions, again, to some stuff that's a bit more complex. But the first question is, what is a visa?
Well, a visa is something that lets you get to the American border, show your passport with the visa in it. The visa is like a secret word to get into a club. It's the magic key to get into the kingdom. All it is permission to enter the United States, and you're declaring what's your purpose. So an F1 visa means you get to come into the United States and your purpose is student. You're going to study and do all the things that students are allowed to do with an F1 visa. That's it. It looks fancy, but it is the least important document once you're here. Before you get here, all you got to get, your whole focus should be the visa, the visa, the visa. You got to get the visa first, but then once you get here and you're in America, you don't need the visa anymore unless you travel. And then when you travel, you got to show the visa again when you return to the border. So that's what a visa is. It's your ticket in.
You mean it's not a credit card, Art?
It's not a MasterCard or a Visa.
It's a different type of entrance to a club, maybe. But yeah, no, we're not talking about that visa today. We are talking about crossing borders. And so, Art, so to people need to prove they have funding to get into the US for their education. How do people do this?
Proving you have funding is one of the things. So there's 3 things. One, why are you coming here? Well, the visa will tell the world you're here to study, and your I-20 will prove that you're here to study because the school issues an I-20. We'll get to that. Then the next thing you got to prove is that you've got money to do the thing you're supposed to do, which is study. How do you prove funding? Well, where's your money coming from? Is it sitting in a bank? Show the bank balance, bring bank statements. If your money is coming from a financing organization, if Empower is the source, then you need proof from Empower that you are approved for a loan and how much you are approved for. And the Empower folks can tell you what paperwork they issue to help you proving you have funds.
Wow, someone must likely plan this. Arbaz, can you tell us more about what document Empower does, or tell us a little bit more about what Empower does to address Art's last point?
Well, we provide those documents to get you the I-20 and the visa process, definitely. I think every person who gets a loan offer from Empower gets a visa support letter in their inbox, something that they can use to show as a proof of funding, as Art mentioned, that the school needs to know exactly how you are funding your education and if you have the funds to cover up the expenses or not. And that support letter does that for you. You'll be issued the I-20 that can be used for your visa process. Plain and simple. Just get an approval from Empower and get the support letter to get the I-20. Simple.
So Cindy, maybe you can talk a little bit more about I-20s.
All right, I-20 is issued when the school gives you admissions to study, right? So the I-20 will state what programs you're studying, your start date and anticipated graduation date. And that is, I will defer to Art, but it's a legal document basically to indicate your purpose of coming to the US.
Fantastic. So Art, tell us more about our I-20s.
Okay, well, the I-20, then you have this, and it shows your intention to come here to study. The purpose of it is many purposes. It's not just to show to the embassy or the consulate to get your visa. It also, once you're inside America, remember I said the visa was not the most important thing, although it looks the fanciest when you're inside America. When you're inside America, how do you prove you're here legally? If someone were to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, prove you're here legally, would you show them the visa? Nah, that's the last thing you'd show them. You'd show them your I-20, number one. Number two, you get an entry record at the border. It's in the government website. It's called an I-94 entry record. And then you'd pull out the passport you carry with the American F1 visa inside. Those are the three things to prove you're here legally. So it not only proves you're here lawfully, it not only proves at the border you've been cleared and your school issued paperwork to you that the consulate then also approved to give you the visa. It does all that. And then when you're inside, not only to prove you're here legally, but there are other processes that depend on your legal presence. For example, a driver's license. So if you don't have an I-20, if you've lost it, get another copy, because you're going to need it for all sorts of things inside the United States as well.
Great. So Art, you said something I think worth clarifying. I think it was a little hyperbole. Our students are not going to be woken up at 3 a.m. asking for this stuff, correct?
Right. Yeah. I made that up. Yeah. I don't know. There was a commercial or a slogan from one presidential campaign. If someone gets the emergency phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning, who do you want answering?
To be very clear, everyone, that will not happen. Art is being a very elaborate speaker. No 3 a.m. wake ups.
Yeah. This is not a police state. It's not that. No, it's a nice place. It's America. America's nice.
Great. Cool. Well, I think we all agree on that, feeling better. And so back to the I-20 now that we are relaxed. So, and Art, I think just to clarify for everyone, can you talk just and simply, what is the difference between a visa, support letter, I-20, in a quick sentence?
The support letter and the I-20 show that your school approved you to attend, and the support letter from Empower proves you have the money to attend, and those two things together you take to the American consulate to get the visa, which lets you come to the border of America and enter the country.
Great. So Cindy, walk us through real quick the Empower process. What happens first, second, third? Real quick. We're getting a lot of questions about this, so I just want to make sure it's super, super clear.
So, of course, you will apply for an Empower loan. Once your Empower loan is approved, it will be pre-approved as you submit your application, and our team will follow up with required documents to verify some of the information that you share during your application. Once your loan is approved, Empower will issue a support letter. That is when you will be able to take it to your visa appointment to show that you have sufficient fund to study in the US.
So Cindy, right back at you. There are definitely some differences between the US and Canada. I know most of our attendees, 2/3 are here for the US, but that is still 33% here interested in Canada. Can you walk us through some of the differences?
Wonderful. So, although again, Empower, we are not immigration experts, but we had the opportunity to look into it and talk to some of our panelists that we invited through Path to Success program earlier in March, and very excited to learn a little bit more about sort of Canadian process. So basically, in Canada, it requires both the study permit and visa. The study permit is very sort of works similar to I-20, and the study permit allows you to study at designated learning institutions. Again, it allows you to stay in Canada and study in Canada. These two usually are issued together. So if you receive a visa, you will receive a study permit.
Awesome. So Cindy, how does Canada relate to the I-20?
So to say that again, relate.
Yeah, there is an answer of it doesn't. But so maybe it's a trick question. But can you tell, so just so everyone is super clear, what is in the US? What is in Canada?
Right. So yes. So I-20, as I mentioned, is that document you showcase or your purpose in the US. And Canada, they use study permits. So they are not, the same, but definitely serve similar function of indicating sort of your goal of staying in the country.
Great. So we have thoroughly, at least in my opinion, reviewed the different documents that are used in different countries. We're actually move on now to visa appointment. So if anything we said was a little confusing to you, or you just want to clarify, drop those questions in. We'll come back towards the end and answer anything we see a lot of, or some really good questions. So please send us your questions. But on to Arbaz's favorite topic, visa appointments. Yay. And so Arbaz, we're going to start with you, since I know this is a favorite. And so tell us more about what you need to prepare for a visa appointment. And if you want to share a bit more of your own story, which I'm alluding to, that might be useful for our audience as well.
Before I go into the documents that are needed, I think you need a lot of courage to prepare for these appointments. It is one of the scariest days of at least my life. I was shaking, shivering, nervous. I couldn't eat in the morning. And then thankfully my interview was at 9, so I didn't really have to stay a lot of time hungry. But definitely you need a lot of nerves and a lot of courage to go through this process, because think about it, the last 10 months of your preparation has come to this one final day, whether when you'll be getting a rejection or an approval. So at least in your mind, the stakes get too high. And if you really want that education, you would be that much scared too. But in terms of the document process, once you have gotten the courage and you want to know exactly how to go about this process, I think for me, what I did in my experience was I wanted to make sure that I wanted to be able to tell my story properly. Exactly why does it make sense for me to go, first of all, and then what are the things that I got in during that process as well. So something about all my admit letters from all the universities where I received an admission, definitely that was something to go for. My plans to study, and I mean my why of studying was always in my mind, and I knew, or at least I had to make sure that I could articulate it very well in about one sentence or two sentences properly, something that very crisp and delivers the right message. At the same time, my academic history about my undergrad GPA, my test scores, something, if I've taken any of those tests, that kind of, if at all there is a need to showcase any of my documents to talk about my academic, like my capability to handle the academic rigor of the program, that could be taken care as well. And lastly, the most important part, the financial aspect of my education. How exactly am I covering my education? What are the sources of funding? For me, it was a loan. For me, it was a part of it was my personal savings. A part of it was from my parents as well. Something that I thought, well, it's always good to have more and not needed. So I kind of collected a few other sources and make sure that there was enough ample to showcase there. And then something, if there was a need to talk about my plans, which was a question almost every time when I was even waiting in the queue for my line, everybody was asked, what are your postgraduate plans and how are you covering this education? And these were the two most common questions. And in my mind, I was like, I know this answer. I know this answer. I have learned about this answer. When I came to it, forgot the answer, spoke exactly what came to my mind, spoke the truth and got the visa. But that was my experience.
So thank you so much, Arbaz, for Art. From the consultant expert perspective, what advice do you have for people about visa appointments?
The last thing Arbaz said is the thrust of my advice. I think it's really important to have a short a few sentences. They don't give you much time to sum up what your story is. So they'll say, after you study, what are you going to do next? And then if you say, I'm going to stay in America and I'm going to, even if I don't have a work visa, I'm just staying. I'm never coming back. No, that's bad. That's bad. Here's what's good. Good is proving what they want to hear. They want to hear that you're going to return home because that's what a temporary student visa requires you to do. You're supposed to come here to America, study, and go back. Go back. Now, at the time you tell people in the beginning, I'm going back, that's because you're supposed to have that idea in your head. So you have to have a reasonable explanation that is believable, and you could say it fast, that will convince them you're coming back. So now once you're in America, you could change your mind. You wait a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, then you could change your mind. You're human. You're human. You could intend to return home in the beginning, and then later on, things change. But for right now, at the beginning, you're going home, and give them a reason. It's usually family. Well, I'm married and I have a child, 2 little kids. They're in elementary school, and I'm going to study. And if I don't come home, my wife is going to kill me. She's going to get on an airplane with a frying pan and will beat me in the head. Something like that. No lie. Make it funny. If you can, make it relatable, make it human. If you're talking to a guy, he knows what it's like getting hit over the head with a frying pan by an angry, he knows. Believe me. So I know. So the other thing you could say maybe is work. I can use my computer education. And another thing Arbaz said, a global branding. You now are educated in America and you studied X, computers, computer data analytics, and you could use that skill very effectively and make relatively good money back home and give them a place where you could work. So yeah, I'm going to go to America and study computer science, but I'm coming home. I'm not staying there. I'm coming home. And when I come home, I could work for some, like IBM, or find other computer companies that you can name back home. Those are 2 examples: family, jobs, career advancement in the way that you want to advance in your place of origin. America, I'm just getting the education there. And that's it's hard. It's hard. If you want to run If you want to run answers by me, if you want to run your story by me, type it out in 2 or 3 sentences. I'll read it. So my email is immigration.art@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat. Let's see, immigration.art@gmail.
I have a little of an idea. So everyone on the call, you see that Q&A function? If you want to tell Art your story and you want him to get back to you, say, I want Art, drop your email address, type your few sentence story. We'll connect you that way. He will also, we'll share his email address in the chat as well, but that might work a little easier for people too, and I'll streamline it for you, Art. But Art, I'm feeling really good about our students' chances, but now I'm concerned about frying pan abuse. I've never heard of this. And so I'm a little worried here about 3 a.m. and frying pans, but
You have your husband will step out of line. You'll know exactly what the frying pan is. And 3 a.m. is effective because he's asleep. He can't fight back. He's sleeping.
We're getting really specific and I'm getting really worried. Frying pan and 3 a.m. Moving on. All right. What counts as a strong tie to your home country? Cindy, Arbaz, I'd love to hear from you. We'll start with Cindy. No frying pans allowed.
Well, definitely. So another sort of really sort of great story I heard from one of the students that I work with is her desire to bring back what she learned and to basically educate some of the underprivileged, let's say, community in terms of tech or coding, that she wanted to make sure that say she, return what she have learned. And so that is something, again, if you have been doing some community volunteer and support in the past, that could be a very sort of valid, postgraduate goal that you could share with your visa officer. But definitely, again, don't lie and tell, what you're passionate about and what kind of tie that makes you wanted to return home after graduation.
Arbaz, what did you use as your example?
Well, I had 3 examples because I got rejected for visa twice. And for the first 2 times,
that's a point. This is not you go in once and fail, forever ruined. You can reapply.
You can definitely reapply. Yes, I did. And for the first 2 times, it was within a month. I reapplied. And I think the first time I definitely used the personal reasons to show my family ties. Like I was the only child, I have to come back. And it was for a B1, B2 visa, not even an F1 one. So it definitely made sense to talk about these things. And plus I had a job back home too. Apparently that didn't work. But in the third time, what I showed was my professional ties, which was that I own a business back home in healthcare. And it makes sense for me to come back after getting my education here, which is a pretty strong enough tie. But I definitely took the documents that were needed to show that I do own a business here. And it's not just like a shell company. It's actually running legit business that I do with proper documents in place. And that kind of, I think, worked in my favor because who would fake that at times, right? I can't fake up a history of 10 years of my finances and talk about it. But they didn't ask for any document. But my confidence definitely maybe conveyed that, okay, they never asked for any document except for my I-20 and my passport. But I took everything, and that kind of gave me the confidence that I have everything to back it up. If at all there is a need to show anything, I can prove things. There's nothing wrong with anything that I'm doing. I have my story sorted. So that definitely kind of helped me in proving my confidence and maybe just experimentation.
And so, I think it's a really point that this is a try and try again. It's not try once, stop. And so actually, Cindy, tell a little bit more about how Empower, what people should do if this happens, or tell a bit more about, let's say you get deferred, how does Empower work with you?
Yeah, so I really like how this is true, right? If you get rejected with your visa, definitely try it again and let us know. Make sure you reach out to your Empower customer relations representative. They will be able to update your application. We do work with you. We could defer your loan. Also, even let's say provide any additional support that you might need. So let us know, and reach out to us. Some of, if you are denied, let's say, Empower the visa, there might be, if there's any changes to your visa application, just keep us posted. We will be able to make changes on your visa, your application status.
Thank you so much, Cindy. And so Cindy, Arbaz, we're going to move on to the next section. This is where you're going to shine about, all right, you're here, what's next? But before we do so, the three of you, is there any information you wanted to include earlier that you forgot? It's okay if not, just wanted to close this topic, give you a chance in case.
The idea that you have to show your intention to go home, I can't stress that enough. You heard Arbaz three times. Apparently for Arbaz, his mother would have been the one hitting him over the head with the frying pan, and the frying pan apparently it doesn't work. The frying pan in his country for our government doesn't work. It does not. So economic business. He used business. So it all depends on who's behind the window when you walk up there. It's really you really can't control it. All you can do is know generally what they're looking for.
I think the only thing I will add to it is I don't know if it's an actual advice, but I definitely thought that if I have to take constant interviews throughout the day, I would want to be in front of that person in the morning when he or she is fresh, and not after taking 25, 30 interviews, all frustrated and rejecting 20 of them. So that was, I definitely got rejected once even after getting to the first morning appointment. But when I got accepted, it was definitely a morning appointment at 9 o'clock. So, and Arthur can definitely testify if actually that could be a case. But I thought that there is a human element to it, wherein nobody wants to be in front of someone who has taken interviews all day and they're not in the mood to actually listen to you even, and just looking for quick answers and maybe take a decision at that time. So I thought that could help.
Good advice, everyone. And so let's say that you have clearly made it to the US or Canada. You are living some dreams and you're like, okay, I've changed my mind. I don't want to go home. I want to stay. So if that happens to you, Art, what do you advise?
Well, we have, I don't know if I could share my screen. I don't think I want, how about this? I'll send it to you, right? If you put in the Q&A, yeah, you email me and I'll send you, I have a PowerPoint presentation about immigration options to stay after you graduate and do it legally. So the biggest is a work visa. The most popular one, you read all about it, is the H-1B. The H-1B, they give them away by lottery because there's not enough of them. There's only 85,000, unless you work for one of three special employers. One of three special employers are exempt from this restriction of 85,000. It's called a cap. It's capped at 85,000, except for three types of employers. So, and you could read about who they are. Colleges and universities are one. You can go be a finance person on a college, and there's a visa available. So maybe look, the lesson is for the job where you can get a sure, because there's 12 possible work visas, and the H-1B with the lottery is only one of them. I read recently 700,000 people applied for 85,000 H-1Bs, and they give them away by lottery. So it would be good if you had other options besides the H-1B, and there are 11 others. So again, immigration.art@gmail.com. I'll send you the slides. And then beyond the H-1B or any other work visa, like an E, an L, an R1, whatever your interests and your of study scream out to you. This visa applies to you. This visa applies to you. Some are because you're a citizen of a certain country, so you know what all your choices are, and you search for jobs accordingly. And then the visa, however, is temporary. It doesn't last forever. So you go from F1, temporary, you study, graduate, go home, or you could stay after your F1 graduation. You could still be an F1 and work on something called optional practical training. It's part of your F1. So you'd be F1, study, graduate. You're still F1, but your objective now is to learn on the job what you learned already in the books. So temporary student, temporary worker as a student, and then a work visa. Now you're not a student anymore. You're a worker in a certain category, H-1B, L1, R1. There's a lot of visas. And then after that, if you want to stay permanently, permanent residence, that's a green card. And you can get a green card through your work. Your company can sponsor you. Or if you fall in love and marry an American or a green card holder, an American or a green card holder can apply for you to get a green card independent of work. So there are two ways to get a green card, primarily after your work visa, and apply for the green card during the validity period of the work visa. That's a lot of stuff for me to drop at you. But the point is, there is a very, very, very highly defined pathway to get you from F1, if you change your mind and you want to stay, to permanent residence. It's not straightforward. It's not elegant, but there is a pathway, and we could help you figure out how to get down the path. So that's my summary, I suppose.
So everyone here, Art's wonderful answer was for the United States, America. Yeah, there's an oven there. I might have forgotten it, but yeah, the USA. But Cindy, 1/3 of our attendees care about Canada. Can you tell us a little bit about Canada and the express entry system?
Yes, so in March, while preparing for the webinar on Canadian pathway, I learned a little bit more about Canadian express entry. So for those of you that are interested in studying in Canada, your school might be on the eligibility list of those of you that could be eligible for post-graduation work permits. So that is similar to, I think, in the US, the optional practical training, OPT. If you're studying full-time for over a month, your school might be eligible for you to provide to apply for that work permits, and that allows you, whether you are in STEM or non-STEM degree, to work in Canada for up to 3 years. The really sort of what's unique about, I think, the Canadians post-graduation work permit is that you could apply within 180 days after graduation. So the time frame, there's some flexibility in terms of getting that work permit. While you are applying for that work permit, you will be able to start working immediately. So, and for those of you that have experience working in Canada, you are very sort of, you will be in favor when it comes to express entry, because there are several different programs within express entry. those that have experience in Canada working and living, you might be scored higher when it comes to what they call the point system, scoring system, that takes into account of your language ability, your Canadian experience, and your program of study. So just like what Art said, it might be challenging to, let's say, cover the entirety of express entry, but definitely want you to have the opportunity to prepare ahead of time and look into it.
Wonderful. So, oh man, voice is leaving. That is bad. But within the last 10 minutes, that doesn't matter as much. So if you haven't had your question answered yet, please put a question in if you haven't yet, but also drop us your email so we can get back to you in case we don't have time. Without your email, we can't follow up with you. So if you want to follow up, drop an email. If you want Art, say his name. We'll make sure to connect you. But everyone, Art, Arbaz, Cindy, anything you would want to add on what to do when you're already in the US or Canada that you didn't get to cover in your previous little module?
Have a sense of financial literacy in the US. I think it's very important. And most of the other countries out there might not have the same penetration of credit products like a credit card. And I mean, credit history goes a long way in the US compared to other countries is what I've seen. And it's important to start building, your credit history at least as soon as possible. Empower can definitely help you with that. But even if you, let's say, have figured out your financing and funding and you don't need an Empower loan anymore, you can still, there are other ways to build your credit score in the US. And I think that is helpful. And that is counted in almost every time you lease a house, you rent a car or anything at all. So it's important.
Actually,
A job actually, yeah. Absolutely.
If you have a job with money, they want to make sure you're okay with money. Shocking. But Art, Cindy, any final words before I move on to a few audience questions and then we'll wrap up?
I would add that you can't start learning soon enough. The sooner the better. Understanding the different 12 popular work visa choices, because the H-1B is the worst. I mean, if somebody wants to put you in line for an H-1B, great. Then you have to win a lottery. I mean, literally, you get a job offer. You are put in a list of all these people who want an H-1B. Way more people want one than there are available. If you win the lottery by chance, then you can apply for the H-1B, and then you have to be approved. That's a lot of ifs. That's a lot. How about if you get a job offer, you get a visa. You get a job offer, you get a visa. So you have to know what visas are out there. You have to know how to get one. Do you qualify for these particular 11 visas besides the H? And then if you qualify, where do you network? Where do you send your resume? Where do you look for jobs to get one of those other visas? So you can't learn that soon enough. And it might take 2 or 3 times to make it make sense. But that's what I do. I help you. See, this company is a great organization. They're already worried about what you're going to do and how you do it in America or Canada after and you haven't even gotten the loan yet. You know what I mean? Like this is more than just London money. It's more than just lending. This is like advising for your whole future. It's good. It's good.
Thanks so much, Art. And actually, Art, I'm going to have you take us home with a final question before we turn to offering some advice from our lovely panelists. So we've talked a lot about sort of sequencing in time, long process. Art, can you tell us about how long this takes and just sort of what's first, second, third, so people know how long they need to prepare?
You mean the process to get the F1 visa, or?
I would say everything. Let's link it all together.
Wow. Okay. So the visa process takes. Arbaz had to go back 3 times, and he had it first. He had to get admitted to college. Then he had to get the I-20, which depends on financing. And then he had to go to the embassy 3 times. So that has a life of its own. You show up, then you've got the period of time. If it's a master's degree, 2 years, and then you have optional practical training. That could be, if it's a STEM major, STEM majors get, so if for a master's degree, that's already 5 years. If you come for a bachelor's degree, that's 7. If you study science, technology, engineering, or math, STEM. And then once your student status from studying and work is over, then you get a work visa usually, and they're good for around 5, 6, 7 years. They vary. The duration varies by visa type. And then now you've been here for school 2 or 4 years. If you studied a STEM major, you got 3 years of work already. And now you're in a work visa that's going to be good for 5, 6, or 7 years. And in the meantime, while you have this visa, you're getting in line for a green card. And if you all are from, it seems like the audience has a lot of folks from Africa in it. If you're from the continent of Africa, your wait time to get a green card based on a job could be 2, 2.5, 3 years. The marriage to a US citizen, the wait for a green card is 1 year, but then there's always the risk that your spouse will hit you over the head with a frying pan. So that's a very dangerous, the marriage part, very, very, stick with work. Nobody's coming to work with a frying, I hope not. Claire is like, okay, enough. Okay, stop talking.
No. Frying pans, no. In your own marriage, can't comment. But I can comment at least on work.
That's my word. Those are my words of wisdom.
So thank you so much, everyone. So actually, I want 2 questions for each of you. And in the interest of time, I'm going to have you answer both at once. And so the first question is, what is your one piece of advice for our students related to the immigration process? You could only distill it down to one thing. The other question is, we clearly know Empower is the best option for international students, but why do you think? Give our audience one reason why we're the best option for international students. And so, Arbaz, since you've been a student and worked at Empower a while, we'll start with you.
What was the first question?
Oh yeah. We're getting. I tried doubling it up and it did not work. All right. So what is your one piece of advice for our attendees related to the immigration process? 1, and then why is Empower the best?
I was just messing with you. I remember the question. But the one piece of advice would be, I think, and I'm still about to graduate, so I don't know if my advice can work or not. But I think one thing that I've thought for myself is keeping my options open. As Art mentioned, H-1B is a lottery process. Even if you have 3 years of OPT, I have seen people still not getting through the lottery even after 3 years of OPT. So for me, the options are making sure that Canada is open for me. At least I start the process. And then there is a UK too, and I've also started process something back home as well, to just make sure that I'm keeping the conversations open, and we'll see exactly how this works out. But it's good to keep my options open. If there's too much at stake, I have put in a good amount of money to not get the returns that I want. So I want that return from anywhere I can get, UK, Canada. And why Empower is one of the best options for international students. It would be, I think I've gone through this process through a non-Empower route, and I know what, as an Empower, what we offer to international students, and my experience has definitely been a little underwhelming, to be honest. And the way we focus on international students, I don't think my current lender reached out even once to ask, hey, do you have a job? You're about to graduate. Do you need any help? How can we get you there? What's your dream? What's your goal? So from that standpoint, I think a for international student, by international student does create a difference of how we care.
Thank you so much, Arbaz. And so Cindy, Arbaz alluded to you with that Path to Success program. So same questions for you. Why is Empower awesome? And then what's your one piece of advice?
Well, thank you, Arbaz, for the nice plug. Definitely, we're here for you. One piece of advice wanted to give is, while you're very busy studying, definitely know your option. Excuse me. Just like Arbaz, exploring all different options in the U.S., in Canada, and potentially beyond. So, and don't lose sight of the time, because pretty soon, just like Arbaz, you will be graduating. And why empower? Similarly, we care. So we care about your journey. We're here to support you and really reached out to us, and you will hear from us as well, to make sure that there are some webinars that you should stay tuned of. So yeah, we're here to help you. So thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Cindy. And so, Art, we're ending with you. So tell us your one piece of advice, if you could only give one, and then why do you believe in Empower?
Be patient, because nothing happens quickly. Nothing happens quickly. And particularly with big organizations, universities, and then the immigration service, and then the consulate, forget about it. So be patient. And then the second thing is Empower. Like I mentioned earlier, these folks are not just lending you money. That's not, they are, but they care. And that makes sense. They want to be repaid. You better work. You better have a job. So they help you go, but see that they help you. They point you in the right direction to get the next right resources to help you each step of the way. This is unheard of, that a company would ask me to speak to prospective students. Most companies don't care. They don't care. And the fact that Empower found me, I'm just like flabbergasted. Who in banking, lending, finance is thinking about the future? They're all about right now. They're all about right now. This company is setting you up to be part of a community, and they're going to help you. And that's why I'm here. But also remember, not just America. You can go to an American company, but also explore the UK. I have an attorney I've come across and worked with in the UK, so you could ask advice. There are two Canadian lawyers I've come across, and the Canadian system is much more friendly than the American system. So. And oh, by the way, there's an L1 visa, a work visa for people who go home and work for a multinational. You go home, work for a multinational, and then after a year or so, they could transfer you back to the American office. That's a visa, a whole visa. So what Arbaz said is right. He's looking into the UK, he's looking into the United States, he's looking into Canada, and he's looking about his own backyard in India to see if any multinationals have opportunities, so he could eventually come back to America that way. Keep your options open.
Thank you so much, Art, and thank you so much, panelists. I know we kept people a little late today, so apologies, but we are going to send out a recording of this session after this, so you can replay any of the parts. You can certainly forward past the frying pan parts, but hopefully you'll remember us fondly from that. And so we're also going to send out a survey after this, and we read every survey response. We use them to make these better. So please give us some feedback in that survey we send out. And we're also going to send out the materials that Art mentioned as well. And so this is your final moment to add your email address to the Q&A and say whether you want to hear from Empower, Art, both. We'll hold on for an extra minute or two to give you a moment to kind of drop that in. But panelists, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a lovely time. And until next time, hope to see you again. Bye.
Everyone.